In Vancouver, Washington, 35-year-old Tiffany Hill is gunned down on the school run.
He was shooting into a car with kids in the back seat. He clearly was not concerned for their safety. He fired a couple additional rounds, then got into his car and fled.
Her murderer tries to escape.
One has to decide which one would cause the less amount of damage, letting this person run free or pursuing him.
Police suspect they know the shooter. They've tried to stop him before.
Keland's first objective and his primary objective was to kill Tiffany.
Tiffany had called to report that you attempted to contact her today?
No, I did not.
He was a terrorist. He terrorized her.
They said, help, help, help. And then when I called, they cried.
Detectives gather evidence until a picture of a suspect emerges. Which piece of the puzzle will reveal Keland Hill as guilty of murder? What will be a killer's mistake? Detective Tanya Wolstein is on duty in Vancouver, Washington, when she receives a critical call.
I was at work at the Domestic Violence Prosecution Center. It came out over the radio when a big, serious police call comes out, tones come out. So we heard the tones. It initially sounded like perhaps a school shooting. So we all began gearing up and getting ready to leave.
School shootings are every officer's worst fear.
Once the first responders get to a school and there's been a shooting, the school's going to be on lockdown. There's going to be a perimeter set around the school, and a search is going to begin. At that point, you don't know if you still have an active shooter on the property, and there are so many different lives that could be in danger. So the first order of business would be to lock down and contain the crime scene.
Fearing for the safety of school children, Detective Wolstein soon receives confirmation that no youngsters have been harmed. There's only one victim, and she knows her.
It came out rather quickly that this wasn't like an active shooter situation, and then they mentioned Tiffany's name on the air, and that's when I knew it was Tiffany.
The victim, Tiffany Hill, has been in contact with Detective Wolstein before. They feared this day would come.
It was devastating. I mean, I remember just yelling to Prosecutor Boyd across the office, "It's Tiffany, it's Tiffany," and just feeling so terrible. Tiffany was very concerned that Keland was going to murder her. We were very concerned about that based on his behavior.
Tiffany has confided in Detective Wolstein that her estranged husband, Keland Hill, wants her dead.
She has written that if he were angry enough and drunk enough and he had a gun, he would use it on me and he would kill me.
Tiffany explained that Keland had threatened to kill her, kill himself, and he had strangled her on numerous occasions.
Tiffany's worst fears and Detective Wolstein's may have come true. All the signs point to Hill as the man who shot her in front of their children.
He was shooting into a car with his kids in the back seat. He clearly was not concerned for their safety.
He essentially just put this trauma on this entire community, but I don't think he cared.
As Tiffany was being shot, the children in the back seat were unharmed, and it turned out to be the birthday of one of the children.
As first responders work to contain the scene and take Tiffany to hospital, local reporter Jeffrey Mize arrives at the school.
I was working on other projects and such,
when our police scanner really started to go off, showing that there's something major was going on. We could hear something about a shooting at a school.
When I got here, the police had put up police tape across the entrance here, so you really couldn't get onto the school grounds per se. But the vehicle where it occurred happened right over there. You could clearly see the driver's side window smashed out.
While the media and local community are awaiting information, Detective Woolston makes her way to the hospital.
At the hospital I arrived, they had just declared Tiffany dead.
I can't understand how someone could be so consumed with rage, so consumed with the need to control that they would go to this extent to actually murder the mother of their 3 children right in front of them.
Family and friends grapple with the loss of a mother of 3, and police launch a manhunt for her killer.
Keland is now on the run.
In a situation such as a fleeing person in a very populated area or dangerous area, one has to decide which one would cause the less amount of damage, letting this person run free or pursuing them. That's usually a very, very tricky decision.
Detective Woolstein is determined to bring Tiffany's killer to justice, but to do so, she must work with others to catch him and then prove beyond reasonable doubt that he's the man who pulled the trigger.
I spoke with the detectives from the county and let them know what my involvement in the case had been and showed them my text message log, put them in touch with certain people. And I spoke with Tiffany's lawyer who came to the scene and let her know what was going on and what had happened with Tiffany.
Tiffany first made contact with Detective Woolstein after she moved to Vancouver from Maryland with Keland Hill and their 3 children.
What Tiffany and I talked about was a brief history of their relationship and then focused on what had been going on more recently.
Tiffany tells Detective Woolstein that the whole family moved to Vancouver in 2016 after Keland gets a new job. They settle into a middle-class suburb and make friends with people like Isaiah and Karina.
He said that he was in logistics in the Marines, and after he got out of the Marines, he was offered a job with a company that manufactures surveillance drones. They offered him money to come out here, and the price was right, and so he took the job and came out here.
Keland is a pretty bright guy. He's a very accomplished computer programmer. He's working as an assistant manager of logistics at a Boeing drone unit.
I don't think it was a military job, but I think it was a job he had gotten by being in the military.
Fire! In the military, Keland and Tiffany serve in war zones. Tiffany is his commanding officer.
During her service, she earns a number of distinguished awards. And then in 2008, she sustains an injury and is forced to retire from the military. She retires as a sergeant.
I believe she had a TBI, traumatic brain injury from the Middle East when she was stationed there.
If you know anything about Marines, they pride themselves on their toughness. They pride themselves on their ability. It is a brotherhood and a sisterhood. And she rose to the rank of sergeant.
She marries Keland Hill in 2008. Keland is also former Marine, and he had served in Iraq as well.
After the military, the family lives in North Carolina and Maryland before settling in Vancouver, Washington, where Tiffany takes time to adjust.
We met a couple years ago at a Grow and Learn event that they do at the schools. You take your little kids that aren't in school yet, and they read stories, they get snacks, they make a craft. But in the very beginning, Tiffany was very closed off. She didn't share herself with anybody, but when you were her person, I mean, she wore her heart on her sleeve. She kind of just started saddling up to me, and we just got to talking, and From that moment on, it was like we'd always known each other. Like my daughter and her daughter were best friends.
Tiffany grows a network in Vancouver.
We both served on the PTA board together. She was the co-vice president and I was the president, so we did a lot of things together at the school.
She was very, very go-getting. Like, she was very determined as far as trying to get other families to join the PTA. She just had a way of kind of talking about the PTA and getting other families to join.
We did a lot of fundraisers at the school. We were there every day making copies for teachers or whatever fundraiser might be coming up. She went overboard. She did all of the decorations.
Tiffany works hard to help her husband, Keland, become part of the local community.
My wife and Tiffany became fast friends, and she told me, hey, we got invited to their daughter's birthday party. I said, oh, geez, birthday party. I can't stand kids' birthday parties, and I don't like talking to new people. That's the last thing I wanted to go do. And no, but her husband's really nice. You'll like him. I was like, you say that about everybody. And so, I went begrudgingly, and, turns out I did actually like her husband quite a bit. Him and I got along instantly. He was a bowler. He was on a bowling league, and I joined the league with him. And so every week on Friday, we'd go bowling together. Very hospitable and generous, and we kind of had the same dark sense of humor, and so we got along really well.
Everybody loved Keland. Everybody that knew him liked him. He was vivacious. He was fun. He was, he was handsome.
Some friends notice, however, that Keland Hill has something of a side to him.
We had a meeting in August of 19 at her house for the PTA. She hosted it, and he came in later, and I remember saying to him, I really want to thank you for letting us use your house. And it felt like it was something I should have done. That it almost like I had this feeling that we were putting him out. He wasn't comfortable with us being there. There was just something about him, something I didn't trust.
I mean, Tiffany, from the first day I met her, she was a single parent. She did everything. Everything. She did every single meal, all of the cleaning, all the schoolwork, all the school activities, all the clothes shoppings, all the school things, everything. Tiffany did everything by herself.
He wanted a 50s style marriage where the woman stayed home and cooked and did everything for him and serviced him at all times and did what he said.
Police records reveal that prior to their move to Vancouver, Keland becomes angry when he doesn't get what he wants from Tiffany.
So I was aware of some of the things that had happened across the country and prior arrests for domestic violence.
We went out to lunch one day and the girls were playing, and she just kind of very briefly had tossed out some bad times they'd had before, times that she'd almost left him. And I asked questions, and she would just kind of slowly started spilling everything from there.
In a drunken rage, he tried to choke the life out of her, literally. And she managed to get out of the house and got to a neighbor's house, or the neighbor heard her screaming or something. And the police were called.
Keland Hill is charged with attempted murder by strangulation. The charges are later dropped after Tiffany urges the prosecutors to do so.
Tiffany will one day confide in friends that her family's move to Vancouver wasn't driven by Keland's new job.
What Tiffany said was, he moved her out here to get her away from the support network that she had.
She did mention that they moved a couple of times to get away from family, and that this was the biggest move to Washington State. She said it was to purposely get away from her family, to kind of isolate her from her family and friends.
There's a lot of belief that Keland wanted to move out here to isolate his wife, to make sure that she was completely dependent on him, that she did not have friends, family in the area.
But Tiffany makes friends in Vancouver, and she shares crucial details that will one day prove invaluable to officers investigating her murder.
I had asked her, at any point in your marriage were you happy? And she said, at the very beginning, but we met in the military and I didn't really want to date him and he wore me down.
One of the common patterns in domestic abuse is that the person actually is quite charming, quite loving, especially in the beginning stages of the relationship. But after their partner commits to them, usually in the form of marriage, things change because there's this artificial idea that now they'll never leave. And they start to show their true colors.
I think that sometimes people get the impression that domestic violence victims are somehow weak or not, as capable as others. She was a very tough girl. She was very devoted and smart and active in the community. Just because somebody is all of those things doesn't mean they can't be a victim of domestic violence.
It's after Tiffany and Hill marry that his possessive side emerges.
She had just said that things seemed different when she'd had their oldest child. He did not like the attention that she and the baby got.
He wanted 1,000% of her. He'd even tell her, there'd be emails that she'd show me. I mean, he's even saying, if I can't have you, I don't want the kids. The kids, that didn't matter to him. It was her. It was having her. That's what he wanted.
In Vancouver, friends who were initially blindsided by Hill's charm begin to bear witness to a darker side.
The way he talked to her, once he got really comfortable around us, was the behavior of a good spouse. Kind of degrading things, like if she, wore a nice outfit or something, he would just say, talk down to her and, oh, what do you think, you're so hot you can wear stuff like that.
She told me that he would keep her awake for hours, if not days at a time, just to kind of play with the mental side of it, and kind of slapped her around several times, sometimes in front of the kids.
She was tired because he also was sleep depriving her. When she would sleep, he would turn on the TV as loud in their bedroom. He'd put water all over her side of the bed, so when she'd get into bed, it would be soaking wet.
At the bowling alley, he offers friends his version of what might have been seen as manipulative behavior.
Once he got comfortable with me, he started speaking more freely. Of course, it was his version of the story, so my wife, we tell each other everything. And so she would tell me things about the relationship that Tiffany had told her. Tiffany was an independent spirit, and she was extremely active in her children's education and was volunteering all the time for everything. I mean, she just gave of herself constantly. And so he'd be upset that she wasn't at home doing the dishes or cleaning the house or have dinner ready because she was so busy volunteering all the time. I would hear his side of the story, but I wouldn't tell him that I knew those things. I'd keep that to myself.
There's evidence that Hill cheats on his wife.
He was unfaithful in his marriage, and he would frequently leave the bowling alley when we were done to go be with other women, and he showed me the pictures to prove it. It wasn't a he said, she said kind of thing. I saw the pictures. I saw the text messages. I know how he was outside of his marriage.
Of course, I wanted her to leave the very first time she told me this was going on. But he'd find her, no matter what she did or where she went. That was her thing. She's like, he'll find me. He will find a way to me. He will break apart every friendship and relationship that I have, and I will have to go back to him.
Tiffany gave friends advance warning, and her fears come true.
He would try to insert himself in Tiffany and I's friendship. Like if we had a disagreement about something, and we talked about it, we were good, and she'd be like, hey, did you tell Keland these things? I'm like, what? No, I didn't say that. She's like, yeah, he's told me that I shouldn't forgive you and do all that. I was like, no, I haven't said anything to him. And she's like, he's starting. was like, what do you mean? She's like, he's starting to try to make me doubt my friendship with you. He's starting to try to pull me away because he knows that you know. So this is what he's gonna start doing.
Police archives reveal a phone call from September the 11th, 2019, confirming Hill is physically aggressive towards Tiffany in front of their children.
They sent you a text message that said help and that mom and dad were fighting?
They said help, help, help.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I called, they were crying. They were saying that something happened.
The couple has now been living in Washington for about 3 years. Keland gets angry. He locks Tiffany out of their apartment. He throws her into a wall. He chases her down a flight of stairs. She tries to call 911. He slaps the phone out of her hand.
We're scared. We're scared.
He apparently slammed her against the wall, threw her out of the bedroom.
So she couldn't call 911. It's my understanding that one of their children asked Amazon Echo that they had to call Grandma. They told Grandma what was happening, and Grandma called 911 from a different state because he had taken her phone.
And did you hear any yelling in the background or anything like that?
They were yelling help.
She was showing some physical signs of like tiredness and confusion from the concussion.
Have they ever done this before?
And I've heard it some years ago, like 10 years ago.
Tiffany has hidden the fact that Hill continues to abuse her from her family.
Tiffany valued a private life, probably believed that she should keep those family secrets a secret. And perhaps there was also a level of shame, which a lot of people with domestic violence past really feel. As the victim, sometimes you feel like you deserve it, or you don't want your family or friends to worry, so you keep it to yourself.
She said, I haven't really talked to my mom. She has a heart condition and I don't want to worry her.
Now in Vancouver, Tiffany has friends that she will confide in.
We were supposed to have our first official PTA meeting at the school. And she had texted me and said, I don't know if I'll be there tonight, I have a concussion. And that night she came to the meeting, and after the meeting, Karina, who was her best friend, came in with her and she was crying, and I said, are you okay? And Karina said, you tell her and you tell her now. She needs to know. And so Tiffany had said, my husband pushed me, my head hit the wall, I have a concussion, he's abusive.
But I think this time, her kids were getting older. Her kids were getting older, and she was seeing like, this is what they're gonna think is acceptable for them. You know, that this is how people get to treat them.
The next night, police came and he was arrested.
After Hill's attack, Tiffany needs hospital treatment.
It was later determined that she suffered a concussion and whiplash from this attack.
She has such a bad concussion, she needed to go see a neurologist. And so it's very difficult to imagine the type of mindset she was in.
Hill refuses to take responsibility.
Blaming everything on her. She wasn't taking care of the kids, and she wasn't taking care of me. And she took a dive so that I'd get arrested. Never minding the fact that there's a medical doctor saying she has a concussion with the report to back it up.
Tiffany's report of abuse reaches Detective Tanya Woolston at Vancouver's Domestic Violence Prosecution Center.
So was aware of some of the things that had happened across the country and prior arrests for domestic violence, but we focused mainly, Tiffany and I, on what was happening right then.
Tiffany explained that this is all a game to Keland, and he's threatened to kill her before, and to kill her or hurt her would mean nothing to him. It's all a game to him, and she felt like she'd be the one to lose.
Tiffany had made that decision to break away. She was reporting. She was asking for help.
Detective Woolston follows tried and tested protocol to assess the severity of Hill's threat to Tiffany.
We use a danger assessment that's essentially a lethality predictor for our victim. She scored very high on that, 31 out of 41, which is an extreme risk category for us. Some victims, we do have great concerns about their safety, and Tiffany would be one.
The day after Tiffany filed her report and obtained her protection order, Keland was served with the protection order and arrested.
The day after the attack, Clark County officials issue a no-contact order against Keland Hill. In the paperwork that Tiffany fills out supporting this no-contact order, she has written that if he were angry enough and drunk enough and he had a gun, he would use it on me and he would kill me.
Tiffany always said, the only way I'm gonna get out of this is if he kills me. It's gonna happen, he's gonna kill me. And she said that all the time.
The no-contact protection order forbids Hill from any form of contact with Tiffany, including in person, calls, texts, emails, or messages. She's free of him, but she still has worries.
There are these mixtures of loving feelings and resentful feelings and maybe other logistical barriers like having children together, having built a family, and maybe even financial concerns.
He controlled all the money. She had absolutely no idea how much money he brought home from his paycheck. He never told her, he wouldn't tell her.
While Hill can't contact Tiffany, he can reach out to their friends and carry on bowling.
When we would go out, he would just sob hysterically about why his wife won't let him see his kids. And he was a large person. He was a lot taller than me and had mass on me. I'm 5'9", so I'm kind of a small guy in comparison to him, and he would just sob uncontrollably on my shoulder, and all I could do was just, it's okay. I mean, what do you say to somebody like that who obviously has some mental health issues and is having a hard time in their marriage and wants to see their kids? And when he would just have his moments of rage or deep sadness and just start sobbing, all I could do was hug him. I always encouraged him to get real help, but he never really took that advice. He was showing me the dark side. He had a seriously bad evil in him. And I don't mean that in the sense of intentionally evil, but it was like he had just he was possessed almost. He had just had this darkness in him, and he had told me that, he has these just evil thoughts.
The bowling alley remains a place where Keland tries to stay connected to the community, and despite the no-contact order, to Tiffany.
Tiffany reports that Keland has turned up at a bowling alley, asking about coaching one of their children.
One of the things that Keland did after the protection order was he went to the bowling alley and tried to get coaching for his daughter. And he asked the folks at the bowling alley, would Tiffany be present while her daughter was being instructed?
Just days after receiving the no-contact order, Hill is already attempting to approach Tiffany.
A few days later, she received a FaceTime call from him, which she ignored, and that too is a violation of the protection order.
She doesn't answer it. He later claims that, it was an accident. But it continues. One violation after another.
He was still texting her every day, sending her Facebook messages.
On September 14th, 2019, police contact Hill.
Hey, Keland?
Yes.
Hey, it's Corporal Martin of the Vancouver Police. I got a call in regards to Tiffany had called to report that you attempted to contact her today.
No, I did not. I coach my kids in bowling. It doesn't say I can't be around the kids. It says I just have to stay away from her. So one of my fellow coaches, who's also a mutual friend, I was like, yo, I'm not going to go in if she's going to stay. So can you just let me know if she's planning on staying or going so that I know whether I can go coach my kids or not.
I know it's only been 3 days, so it's going to take a little bit of time for you guys to figure this stuff out, but they're very strict. When they say no contact, they mean no contacts.
Scared by Hill's refusal to stay away, Tiffany goes back to the Domestic Violence Prosecution Center.
Tiffany came in to have an interview with the prosecutor, Lauren Boyd. While they were in that interview, Tiffany reported additional violations of the no contact order.
This is a common and predictable trajectory of individuals who have this pattern of domestic violence. It was this idea of control and power, and he may have spun a narrative that she was the one at fault for all of his unhappiness, for all of his stresses.
Authorities in Vancouver are preparing to pursue further charges against Hill when his violations begin to escalate.
On the 6th of October, he went to Walmart and tried to purchase a bolt-action rifle.
We have an assembly at the school. She gets a phone call. She comes back out of the room that she was in. She looked like a ghost. And I said, "What's going on?" And she said, "I have to go meet my social worker. He tried to buy a gun."
It is illegal to attempt to purchase a weapon knowing that you have a protection from abuse order against you.
That is the day that I think her soul died. It really was just, she was just a shell of a human. She was so devastated that he had tried to buy a gun and what that was going to mean to her.
As he tried to purchase this weapon, the background check was completed, and it showed up that he had been charged with domestic abuse and had a protected order against him. A deputy showed up on scene.
That deputy then reports it to the Clark County officials in Washington State. This, again, is another violation of that no contact order.
The next day, prosecutors from Clark County issue a warrant for Keland Hill's arrest, but are left searching.
They can't find him.
He said he stayed at a friend's house, his other friend, who lived half hour, 45 minutes from their house. And he would also say things like he's living in his car, you know, by the river. But he would just say things, you know, I don't know if it had any truth to them whatsoever. He had so much untruthfulness about him.
So he's not arrested, nothing happens, and he's still out there.
While authorities try to find Hill, Tiffany's community and Detective Woolston try to keep her safe.
So with Tiffany, we had several measures in place. One is we wanted her to, if possible, go back with her family in New York. That would have been, I think, the safest thing.
I offered to pay for her and the kids to fly back to the East Coast where her family lived.
I told her, if you don't feel safe where you're at, I said, here's a key to my apartment. You can come stay at my apartment. It's a gated community. So she had that key with her as a backup.
While Tiffany considers her options, her children's school puts security measures in place.
We'd been practicing lockdowns at the school. They were prepared. There were, you know, security guards at the school every day. If Keland showed up, doors locked. They hit the button, classrooms locked, everything locked.
On October 10th, 2019, Hill does show up, but not at the school.
We have just a board meeting at a restaurant here in Vancouver, and we're all leaving, and I see this man walking up, and he smiles at me. And I think to myself, well, that looks like Keland. And I hear Tiffany say, "Oh my God," and she starts running for the car. Another board member of ours worked for the sheriff's department, so she immediately got on 911 and called. Keland's yelling at her, "I just want to see my kids," and then realizes, you know, we're all coming towards him, like this is gonna be us forming a circle right around her, and he runs.
Hi, yes, I'm at a Peachtree restaurant. I have a no contact order and my husband showed up. He ran towards bowling alley.
By revealing himself in front of Tiffany's protective community, has Hill made a killer's mistake?
I don't know how he located me.
I tell her he has to be following you or tracking you. That is the only way. This restaurant was, the parking lot was all the way in the back. I mean, you would have never seen someone pull in and park.
Okay, the next level deputy is going to contact you there at the Peachtree. When you see them, make sure that you flag them down, wave them over.
Eventually, they searched Tiffany's vehicle, and beneath the wheel well of the vehicle was a small black box that was used as a GPS tracking device.
Once they found that tracker, we knew, like we had a one-up as far as the situation.
Hill is arrested later that day.
Keland was arrested, taken into custody for stalking and violating his protective order. His vehicle and his cell phones were taken as evidence.
Detective Woolston and her team at the Domestic Violence Prosecution Center prepares to build a case against him.
And the Domestic Violence Prosecution Center is sort of a cooperative group where we have prosecutors, both city and county. We have advocates for our domestic violence victims. We have community advocates that come in. And then we also have a group of detectives that work all together.
In a recorded bail hearing, prosecutor Lauren Boyd argues that Hill is too dangerous to be free. She requests bail be set at $2 million.
I believe, the state believes, that if the defendant is released, he will kill the victim.
Tiffany is begging you, he will kill her. She had done all these things to help protect herself and to work within the system.
She knew roughly how much money he had in his bank account. She said, so at this point, with $150,000 bail, he'll be able to make bail because he has at least $15,000.
He's here now because he placed a tracking device on my vehicle and tried to possess a weapon. Those two things are major indicators of what I've known all along, deep down, that he's going to kill me if he's given the opportunity. I beg you to allow him to get to me and my children.
But the Clark County Superior Court Judge John Fairgrieve doesn't set Hill's bail at $2 million.
The judge looks at the records and he says, well, I don't know. This guy, he doesn't have a criminal history because, of course, he has forced Tiffany to drop all the charges, including attempted murder. He has a job. He's gainfully employed. He's not a flight risk. He has served in the military honorably. I don't think so. And then the prosecutor argues, well, if you're going to not raise the bail, then at least put an electronic tracker on him. And the judge says, no, I don't think so. On November 21st, Keland Hill is released on a $250,000 bail, which means he only had to put forth $2,500.
On arrest, Keland's car had been taken from him.
On the 26th of November, less than 2 weeks from this incident, Keland went back to court and asked for his vehicle back. The court did grant him his vehicle, but they said he could only use it for transportation to and from work.
That same day, 26 November 2019, Tiffany arrives to collect her children from school. Her mother has arrived from New York to celebrate one of the children's birthdays. And Keland Hill has arrived as well.
He must have been parked in such a way that he could see Tiffany's car, so he could see when she came out.
He pulled out of his parking spot, pulled up in front of Tiffany's vehicle. So he was parked kind of perpendicular to her vehicle, got out of the vehicle, stood in front of the driver's side, shot several times through the driver's side window. And then had some kind of a malfunction with his firearm, it appears. Went back to his car trunk and appeared to kind of reload or clear his malfunction, came to the side of the driver's side and fired a couple additional rounds.
Tiffany's children and her mum are in the car.
Tiffany's mom leaned over and did the instinctual reaching out to try to protect her daughter. And she was shot in her arms and her hands several times.
Wendy Rochester has just sent her class home when the alarm is raised.
I just heard part of the lockdown procedure go into place, and I wasn't quite sure, like, is this real or not real? So I went to the office to kind of find out what was going on, and that's when I heard her mom screaming in the nurse's station.
Tiffany's children have been pulled from the car unharmed. Her mother is shot, but survives. With the school in lockdown, a nearby police unit is alerted.
Clark County deputies were actually executing a warrant just a few blocks away. So when the call came out, they left the scene of the warrant, and I believe he probably heard the sirens.
Deputies are just seconds away.
Perhaps if Clark County hadn't been so close and he had more time, we don't know what he would have done. So I'm certainly grateful that they were there because I believe they saved those children's lives.
Deputies race after Hill as he speeds through red lights, hitting 75 miles an hour along Northeast 78th Street and Anderson Road.
The deputies actually attempted to stop his vehicle by ramming it with theirs and pursued him until he got caught in traffic.
Determined to take him into custody, the deputies' chase ends at Patton Parkway, where Hill finally stops and steps out of his vehicle.
And that's when Keland exited the vehicle, turned to face the oncoming officers, and shot himself.
I think once he realized that this police chase was happening and that he was very unlikely to get away with this, he was probably going to jail for life, that's when he said, you know what, an easier way for me to do this is just to kill myself. That oftentimes makes people very angry because there's no chance for a closure, a proper closure for family members, for the justice system.
Children are left without a mother and a father.
We were with the children when the sheriff told them that their father had killed their mother and then killed himself.
I feel it every time I come back here. It's just so tragic that a young woman, 35 years old, with her whole life ahead of her, was killed horrendously in front of her 3 children. It's something that sticks with you. And every time I drive by the school, I think about it. And when I drive by the school in the future, I'm sure I'm still going to think about it.
The community comes together to support Tiffany's grieving family, just as they had fought to protect her.
Tiffany Hill was buried with full military honors back in her home state of New York. Her 3 children are now being raised by her 2 sisters. In March of 2020, Washington state lawmakers passed the Tiffany Hill Act. It requires that anyone who is facing charges of domestic violence and subject to a no-contact order wear an electronic monitoring device. The victim would then have an app on their phone, and if that person should come into a certain proximity to the victim, that victim would be alerted.
Senator Linda Wilson introduces the Tiffany Hill Act, believing that giving victims the ability to track their abusers' movements is crucial for their safety.
Had this technology been around, then, and Tiffany had been available to it, she would have known more often when he was lurking, because she would be notified on her phone. They would get a real-time notification. So as soon as that happened, then they would be notified that this person was within their geoprotection zone.
Keland Hill was wrong to believe he could terrorize and abuse his wife in front of their friends and their own children and then get away with it. His decision to ambush Tiffany in front of her close school community, with county deputies just moments away, raised the risk of him being caught, which he was. It was ultimately a killer's mistake, one which led him to take his own life.